The night was heavy with silence as Jonathan Cole, a 38-year-old historian with sharp eyes and unkempt dark hair, pressed open the rusted gates of the abandoned Montauk Air Force Base. He said, "Every lie leaves a shadow, and shadows point to truth." The air was damp, the tang of salt water drifting from the Atlantic, while clouds rolled thick across the sky. His breath fogged under the weak moonlight, his pulse quick with equal parts fear and anticipation. Each creak of the gate felt like a warning, but obsession overpowered hesitation. He had sacrificed relationships, sleep, and peace for this moment. The thought of what lay hidden beneath the base gnawed at him, a hunger that no warning could silence. Jonathan said, "If the legends are true, this is where the real story begins." Inside the base, silence deepened. Jonathan said, "It feels alive, like it's waiting." Dust swirled in his flashlight beam, and the cracked floor groaned beneath each step. He traced walls scarred by peeling paint and faint military insignias, faded by decades of neglect. He remembered whispers of experiments conducted here, time fractures, mind control trials, vanishing soldiers. The air carried a metallic tang that burned his throat, as if the walls still exhaled secrets. His obsession blurred fear into adrenaline, making every sound sharper. Jonathan said they tried to bury this, but history leaves scars too deep to hide. Jonathan's beam landed on a rusted door marked restricted access. He muttered, "This is where they kept it hidden." His voice trembled with hunger for revelation. The handle resisted, corroded by years of abandonment, but with force it gave way, revealing a chamber thick with stale air. The walls were lined with broken equipment, control panels, cables dangling like veins of a dead beast. A chill wrapped his spine as if unseen eyes were watching. He whispered, "This is no myth. This place remembers." His notebook scribbles mirrored what lay before him, a haunting validation. The chamber hummed faintly, though the machines lay dead. Jonathan said, "It shouldn't sound alive." He leaned closer to a cracked console, fingers brushing the dust. Suddenly, a faint vibration stirred under his palm. Heart pounding, he pulled back, whispering, "Residual power?" After all these years? The air felt charged, as though time itself had folded into the room. He recalled reports of experiments, men lost in loops of hours trapped in silence. Jonathan steadied himself, gripping the console tighter, his eyes wild with both fear and wonder. "They were tampering with forces we barely understand," he said. Jonathan's ears caught a distant echo, faint as a whisper carried on stone. He turned, heart pounding. He said, "I'm not alone." The beam of his flashlight trembled across the room, illuminating collapsed chairs and shattered glass. His notebook slipped, pages scattering across the floor like dead leaves. On one page, a diagram of intersecting rings seemed to glow faintly in the pale light. Jonathan whispered, "The gateway." The realization sank like ice through his veins. The legend wasn't just a story. Something here had been awakened, something that had been waiting for him all along. Jonathan emerged from the chamber into a corridor lined with decayed filing cabinets. Dust floated in the flashlight's cone, as if memories lingered in the air. He whispered, "Every scrap could tell their story." His hands trembled while prying open drawers swollen with rust, pulling out files brittle with age. He saw faded photographs of men in uniforms, their eyes wide with fear, alongside typed reports stamped classified. His breath quickened as if the documents were burning with buried truth. "They erased lives here," Jonathan said, voice cracking. "But the echoes remain." The silence answered him with weight. Among the documents, Jonathan uncovered a faded journal belonging to Dr. Harold Grant, a physicist tied to the project. Handwriting sprawled frantic, margins filled with formulas and warnings. Jonathan whispered, "He knew the danger." The words spoke of subjects vanishing into time fractures, lost to dimensions no one could retrieve. Pages carried stains like blood or ink, smudged by desperation. Jonathan clutched the journal to his chest as if it were sacred. His eyes glistened with a hunger for validation. "You were trying to warn them," he said, "but they silenced you instead." The walls seemed to breathe around him. Jonathan moved deeper into the base, finding a stairwell leading underground. The air grew colder, heavy with mildew and echoes of dripping water. His flashlight beam traced words carved into the wall. "Time devours," he said. "Someone wanted us to remember." The words cut into concrete with violent urgency, their letters jagged and desperate. Jonathan's pulse raced as his footsteps echoed, sounding louder than they should. The descent seemed endless, as if space stretched unnaturally. "The fractures are real," he muttered, shivering. "And I'm walking into them." His breath quickened as shadows swallowed him whole. At the bottom of the stairwell, Jonathan entered a chamber lined with observation windows, glass cracked and clouded. Inside, he glimpsed chairs bolted to the floor with restraints. "Experiment rooms," he whispered, voice trembling. Rusted helmets with wires dangled, still attached to broken consoles. He remembered rumors of soldiers subjected to psychic manipulation, minds twisted until reality tore. His breath hitched as he leaned closer to the glass. "They were prisoners, not volunteers," he muttered. The silence pressed in, thick with unseen screams. The metallic taste in his mouth deepened as if the chamber rejected his presence. Jonathan stumbled upon a wall covered in faded photographs pinned beneath cracked glass. Faces of men, women, even children stared back, subjects of the Montauk trials. Their expressions ranged from fear to vacant emptiness. His throat tightened as his eyes lingered on a young boy, barely 12, wearing electrodes across his skull. Jonathan said, "They sacrificed innocence for power." His hands shook, pressing against the glass as if he could reach them. The photographs blurred with the burn of tears he refused to let fall. He whispered, "This is the truth they buried." The chamber seemed to echo his grief. Jonathan's steps carried him into a dim archive chamber, lined with overturned cabinets and broken microfilm readers. His beam caught a shadow moving across the far wall. He froze. A man stepped into the light. Dr. Alan Richter, 52, lean, gray-haired, wearing a wrinkled black turtleneck beneath a trench coat. Jonathan said, "You were part of this." Richter smiled coldly. "Some truths should stay buried." The tension in the air crackled. Jonathan's obsession burned, but instinct told him danger had just taken shape. In that moment he realized he wasn't alone in the hunt for Montauk's secrets. Richter's calmness unsettled Jonathan. "You've come far," Richter said, "but curiosity kills more than cats." Jonathan tightened his grip on the flashlight, replying, "You can't hide this forever." The older man's eyes gleamed with restrained menace, voice dripping with authority. The project was necessary. The nation demanded sacrifice. Jonathan's chest heaved, fury and fear clashing inside him. He realized Richter wasn't just a witness, he was a keeper of secrets, standing between him and revelation. Shadows stretched across Richter's face, making him seem half human, half phantom. Jonathan whispered, "You'll answer for what was done here." Jonathan pressed Richter for answers, but the older man deflected with riddles. "Truth isn't light," Richter said. "It's fire, and you'll burn." Jonathan's jaw clenched. "Then let me burn." Richter smirked, eyes gleaming with perverse admiration. Jonathan noticed a scar along Richter's temple, evidence of past experiments. The realization chilled him. Richter wasn't just guarding secrets, he was bound to them. "You think you can control it?" Jonathan said, trembling with anger. Richter leaned close, whispering, "Control is an illusion. We only feed the machine." Jonathan's breath hitched. Every answer only deepened the abyss. Suddenly another figure appeared, a woman stepping from the shadows. Sarah Mitchell, 34, the reluctant ally, auburn hair tied back, denim jacket over a gray sweater, held a lantern. "Jonathan," she said urgently, "he's not the only danger here." Her eyes burned with skepticism, yet fear edged her voice. Jonathan felt torn. Sarah had warned him against this journey, yet here she was. Richter sneered, the naive voice of reason. Sarah snapped back. You built a graveyard, Richter. Jonathan felt caught between obsession, resistance, and Richter's quiet threat. He whispered, "This place is already choosing sides." The three stood locked in fragile silence, the chamber vibrating faintly with distant machinery, though power should have been dead. Jonathan whispered, "The base is waking." Sarah's lantern flickered, shadows jerking violently across cracked walls. Richter smiled, whispering, "It never slept." Jonathan's skin prickled as the vibration deepened, humming through the floor into his bones. Sarah gripped his arm, eyes wide. "We need to leave." But Jonathan's voice broke with obsession. "Not until I know everything." Richter's expression darkened, as though the walls themselves bent to his will. The truth was closer, but so was the abyss. Jonathan, Sarah, and Richter pushed deeper into the lower levels, where stale air reeked of mold and rust. They entered a forgotten living quarter, beds overturned, belongings scattered as if abandoned in haste. Jonathan whispered, "They left lives here, not just experiments." Sarah brushed dust from a child's toy soldier, her face tightening. "Families were here," she said, voice cracking. Richter remained cold. "Collateral." Jonathan snapped. "You call innocence collateral?" His anger burned, while Sarah's empathy deepened. The silence pressed with grief, as if the walls mourned those trapped within the project's hidden legacy. Jonathan's flashlight beam fell on a frail figure slumped against the wall. An older man, late 60s, hollow-eyed, wrapped in a hospital gown torn and yellowed with age. His body shook with shallow breaths. Sarah gasped, "He's alive." Jonathan crouched, whispering, "Sir, can you hear me?" The man's lips trembled, whispering, "Time never ends." Richter's eyes narrowed with unease. Jonathan recognized the man from Grant's journal, Thomas Reed, a test subject who had vanished. Jonathan whispered, "You're the proof." Sarah's eyes filled with tears as she muttered, "He's the cost." The chamber seemed to shrink around them. Thomas Reed's voice rasped, as if each word carried centuries. "They pulled me through years, broke me into pieces." Jonathan leaned closer, heart racing. "What did they do?" Reed's eyes flickered, distant, yet pained. "They made me live the same day for decades. I heard their voices, but they weren't real." Sarah gripped Jonathan's arm, tears brimming. "He's been trapped in their fracture." Jonathan's notebook shook in his hands as he scribbled frantically. Richter muttered, "He wasn't supposed to survive." Jonathan turned, rage blazing. "You destroyed him." The frail man's whisper hung in the air. "I never left." Reed raised a trembling hand, pointing toward a sealed steel door at the far end of the chamber. "They keep it behind there." Jonathan's pulse thundered. Sarah whispered, "We shouldn't open it." Richter smirked. "You've come this far. Are you afraid now?" Jonathan said, "Afraid? No. Obsessed? Yes." Reed coughed violently, blood staining his lips. "It feeds on us. It feeds on time itself." Jonathan gripped the flashlight tighter, trembling with need to know. Sarah's voice cracked. "Jonathan, please, don't let this consume you." He whispered, "It already has." His obsession burned brighter than caution or fear. Reed collapsed, whisper fading, "Don't open it." His body slumped lifelessly. Sarah gasped, covering her mouth, eyes wide with grief. Jonathan stared at Reed's still face, his chest tightening, but obsession overtook mourning. He whispered, "He showed us the way." Richter's voice cut like steel. "Now you'll understand what they died for." The chamber seemed to darken as Jonathan rose, flashlight beam fixed on the steel door. Sarah said desperately, "Jonathan, don't trade your soul for secrets." He stepped forward, whispering, "The truth is worth everything." The silence that followed felt like the calm before a storm. Jonathan stood before the sealed steel door, his flashlight trembling against its rusted surface. Sarah whispered, "Thomas died warning us." Jonathan muttered, "Warnings are fear's disguise." Richter smirked, "He's chosen the truth over mercy." The silence crackled with tension, Sarah stepping between Jonathan and the door. You're not listening, she said, desperation edging her voice. Jonathan's obsession twisted into defiance. I've listened to silence my whole life. Now, I demand answers. His words cut her, and for a heartbeat, the group fractured. Richter's cold grin deepened, savoring the unraveling trust. Sarah grabbed Jonathan's arm. You're letting him manipulate you. Richter's tone turned venomous. She's the anchor keeping you from revelation. Jonathan's chest heaved, torn between their voices. His mind flashed with memories, abandoned friends, failed relationships, all sacrificed for truth. I can't stop now, he whispered. Sarah's eyes glistened with pain. Then you'll lose yourself. Richter's whisper slithered. Lose himself or find everything. Jonathan's grip tightened on the flashlight, knuckles white. For the first time, Sarah saw obsession overtaking him. The air quivered with faint vibrations as the chamber responded to their conflict. Jonathan's voice rose. Truth is worth the cost. Sarah's plea cracked. Not your humanity. Richter stepped closer, voice calm but cutting. She doesn't understand sacrifice. Jonathan's jaw clenched as Richter's words ignited his buried hunger. But when Jonathan turned, Sarah's eyes met his, raw, pleading, filled with betrayal and fear. You're choosing him over me, she whispered. The silence that followed was heavier than screams. For the first time, Jonathan felt the knife edge of losing his last ally. Jonathan stepped toward the door, Sarah blocking his path. If you do this, you betray everything we stand for. He whispered, I stand for truth. Sarah's voice broke. Then you betray me. Richter's grin widened. Betrayal is just clarity. Jonathan's breath grew shallow, torn but driven, obsession devouring reason. Sarah lowered her lantern, stepping back in defeat. You've already made your choice. Jonathan's silence was answer enough. The crack between them split wider, and Richter's shadow seemed to swell, feeding on their fracture. The chamber roared with a sudden pulse, as if awakened by their conflict. The steel door groaned, a faint light seeping through cracks. Sarah shouted, Jonathan, stop! But he pressed forward, his voice trembling. This is the moment I was born for. Richter's voice rose, almost triumphant. Welcome to the true beginning. Sarah's tears fell as she whispered, Then I've already lost you. Jonathan placed his hand on the door, feeling its vibrations sync with his heartbeat. The betrayal was complete, not by action, but by choice. The path forward had consumed him. The steel door groaned open with a violent screech, revealing a chamber pulsating with dim golden light. Machinery long thought dead thrummed with unnatural energy, wires sparking faintly in the darkness. Jonathan stepped inside, whispering, This is it, the heart of Montauk. Sarah froze at the threshold, terror etched into her face. Jonathan daunt. Richter's grin widened. You've crossed the line, there's no turning back. The floor vibrated, as though time itself bled through the walls. Jonathan's eyes widened with awe, his voice breaking. It's alive. At the chamber's center stood a massive ring of fractured steel, humming with distorted energy. Faint images flickered inside it, faces, places, moments flashing like broken film reels. Jonathan's breath caught. It's a window, he whispered. Sarah clutched her lantern tighter. It's a trap. Richter's voice dripped with triumph. It's the fracture of time itself. Jonathan reached forward as if drawn by unseen gravity. Sarah cried out, You are feeding it. The hum grew louder, resonating in their bones. Jonathan's obsession drowned out her fear. No, it's feeding me, he said, trembling. The fractured ring convulsed, images stabilizing into a vision of the past, soldiers strapped into chairs, helmets clamped to their heads, screaming as electricity ripped through them. Jonathan stumbled back, gasping. It's showing me everything. Sarah's face paled. This isn't knowledge, it's torment. Richter stepped forward, his scarred temple catching the glow. This is the price of understanding. The fracture remembers. Jonathan pressed his hands to his head as visions swarmed, men lost, children experimented upon, time unraveling. His scream cut through the chamber, a cry of awe and agony entwined. Jonathan collapsed to his knees, panting as vision subsided. His voice cracked. They tore reality apart. Sarah knelt beside him, whispering, "You don't have to carry this." Richter loomed over them, his voice sharp. "He does. He's chosen." Jonathan looked up, eyes hollow but burning with obsession. "This isn't choice. It's destiny." Sarah shook her head, tears streaking her cheeks. "No, Jonathan, it's poison." The fracture pulsed violently, walls trembling, ceiling dust raining down. Jonathan gripped Sarah's hand, then let go, whispering, "I can't stop. Not now." The fracture erupted, sending a shockwave that rippled through the chamber. The walls bent, light distorting into impossible shapes. Jonathan rose slowly, his silhouette swallowed by the glow. Sarah screamed, "It's killing you." His voice echoed with eerie calm. "No, it's remaking me." Richter's face glowed with triumph. At last, the successor. Sarah's lantern shattered as she stumbled back, horror gripping her. Jonathan's eyes burned with unnatural golden light as the chamber roared like a living beast. He whispered, "The truth is awake." The chamber convulsed like a living organism, its walls warping with ripples of molten light that seemed to breathe in time with Jonathan's pulse. His eyes glowed, golden fire burning inside them, his chest heaving as if tethered to the fracture. Sarah's voice cracked through the chaos. "Jonathan, stop, it's taking you." She clutched her lantern, her face streaked with tears, the flames sputtering under the quake. Jonathan whispered with trembling reverence, "No, Sarah, it's not taking me. I am becoming what they always feared I'd find." Richter's silhouette stretched against the fractured glow, arms raised as if embracing divinity. "The Keeper passes the torch," he declared, voice resonant with triumph. Jonathan staggered forward, muttering, "The truth, it doesn't hide, it hungers." The air itself thickened, vibrating as though demanding a sacrifice. The fracture pulsed like a colossal heart, sending waves of shimmering energy crashing across the chamber. Shards of vision tore through the air, soldiers screaming in chairs, children bound by wires, futures collapsing into ash. Jonathan's breath hitched, his hands clutching his chest. "It's all here," he gasped. "All of it endless and alive." Sarah's voice broke into a sobbing scream. "Then close your eyes before it consumes you." Richter's voice rose with poisonous delight. "No, let it consume you, let it crown you. The fracture remembers what the world forgot." Jonathan's mind reeled, the flood of memories slicing him raw. "If I look away," he whispered, "all their pain vanishes." Sarah stepped forward, lantern flickering, tears burning down her cheeks. "And if you keep looking, Jonathan, you vanish with them." The chamber howled with inhuman resonance, demanding choice. Jonathan's body flickered like static, edges of his form bleeding into fractured seconds, as if he was being pulled apart by timelines. Richter advanced, voice low and venomous. "You are mine, you are the vessel. Without me, you are nothing but dust in the fracture." Jonathan's voice shook as he forced words out. "I am not yours." Sarah gripped his arm desperately, grounding him. "Fight him, Jonathan. He's not a keeper, he's a leech." Sparks of golden light crawled across Jonathan's fingertips, crackling with barely contained power. His eyes glared with wild intensity as he whispered, "Then I will burn in truth before I bow to lies." Richter's scar glowed red, feeding on fractured light, his calm facade breaking into rage. "Without me, it devours you whole." The chamber trembled violently, caught between Jonathan's defiance and Richter's desperation. Jonathan raised his hands, unleashing a torrent of golden energy that cracked through the chamber like lightning, tearing open the sky. The blast struck Richter, slamming him back against the wall with bone-shattering force. His scream echoed, guttural and raw, as fractured arcs coiled around him like serpents. Sarah shielded her face, voice straining against the roar. "Jonathan, stop, you'll kill him." Jonathan's voice thundered, every word burning. He used their suffering for power. Now the truth claims him. Richter writhed, his smirk dissolving into terror, the scar across his temple glowing violently, before splitting with light. His body began to fragment into shards of time itself, dissolving into fractured dust. Sarah gasped, tears flooding her cheeks. He's gone. Jonathan's voice cracked, quieter now, haunted. No, he was never here. Only the secret lived. The chamber settled into trembling silence, the keeper undone. The fracture dimmed, its violent roar fading into a steady pulse, like a dying star exhaling. Richter was gone, his form dissolved into fragments that drifted upward and vanished. Jonathan collapsed to his knees, body trembling, glow fading from his eyes. Sarah rushed to him, lantern shards crunching underfoot, grabbing his face with trembling hands. "Don't leave me too," she whispered through sobs. His gaze met hers, exhausted, hollow. "I've seen them, Sarah. All of them. The lost, the broken, the forgotten. Their pain doesn't die. It echoes forever." She pressed her forehead against his, pleading. "Then let it go. Please, Jonathan, don't carry their chains." His hand brushed her cheek, gentle, almost fading. "If I let go, their memory vanishes, and history repeats." His voice cracked with the final whisper. "History never dies. It waits." The fracture pulsed faintly, a witness that neither condemned nor forgave.